Nick, what's going on? Welcome back to our what is this fifth episode of Business Boost? Yeah, and also welcome to the audience. Listen, with the year running down, right? We wanted to talk about some things that you can do in FY24 to kind of like be more efficient, be more productive. So today we're gonna be talking about what licenses you're paying for, holding on to unnecessary data, work that didn't work in 2023, policy reminders, and projects that you might need to dust off. So, Nick, I want to start with this first one, obviously, about licenses that people might be paying for that they need to check up on. So now, in 2024, why would you recommend people go and check out their licenses?
Well, I think I'd recommend you do it at any point, but this episode is going to be going out the first of the year, so it seems like a logical time to say, hey, if you haven't done this in a while, maybe this is something you can go and think about. Microsoft continues to charge you for licenses that you do not have assigned to anyone and you are not using. So if you've had changes to your team over the course of 2023, or there are things that you've tried out that you're not using anymore, then it's really simple to go into the admin center or to get your IT people just to go into the admin center and confirm that you don't have any unassigned licenses that you don't need. And it's not going to be, in most cases, a huge amount of money that you're going to save by changing that. But, it's something that makes sense to not be paying for something that you're not using actively.
Yeah, yeah, and it's no different than if you pay for Netflix and you don't watch Netflix. You know what I'm saying? It's just with Microsoft, it's inside of the environment. Like you got to go inside the environment, go to your admin center, and look up these things and see what you're paying for. So you don't have to make it like a super detailed exercise. Just get in there, see what's going on, and make it happen. I really do believe that if more often, maybe even quarterly, more often you looked at these licenses, you would find yourself saving money. So I mean, if you're into saving money, go ahead and look at these licenses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things in our modern age where everyone wants you to sign up for a subscription for everything.
Everything.
This is something that, as a business owner, you need to be conscious of. Like we've moved from buying something and owning it to everything is costing you something every month, and
Yep.
I think there are lots of advantages to that. But you only get the advantage of the flexibility if you use that flexibility, and you only are using that flexibility if you're turning things on and off as you need them.
Right, right. And also, if you have an IT department, just task
Yeah,
them to go in there and do it, and then look at make sure they give you a before and after. Hey, we had this many people, we cut this many people, we're saving this much money.
yeah, exactly. And make sure your IT department, make sure it's in their it's in their plan to be using those dollars effectively. And this is one way that you can do it. So I certainly. Yeah, it's one of the things I advocate with my clients. Just checking up on this, going through things every so often. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it every week. You don't need to do it every month. But over time, you can definitely see a creep here of, we've got 3 licenses we're paying for that we don't need. We've got 30 licenses here that we don't need. And over time, that's going to be costing you money that you could use to pay for something else. So go in, check it out, get someone to check it out. It's a simple thing to do. And then you can just make sure that you're on top of this regularly throughout the year.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, good deal. My sentiments exactly. So now let's talk about holding on to unnecessary data. So we're talking about holding on to stuff that you don't really need, but now this is becoming more of an issue with AI.
Mm.
Nick, give me your thoughts on this. Like, why do you think AI is making this more of an issue?
Well, I think the thing with if we look at particularly something like Copilot for Microsoft 365 and what's been suggested in terms of prepping your environment for that, it doesn't expose any data that a user doesn't already have access to. But it also doesn't know that everyone, on the basis of the honor system, isn't supposed to look in that finance files directory that everyone does have access to, but no one ever looks at. And that's the way that things have often worked in. Certainly, a lot of the smaller businesses that I talk to. So, this is something, again, we're at the start of the year. It seems a good time to have a reset on some of this stuff and just think about Are you holding on to data that you don't need? Does people have access to data that they don't need? If you're thinking about how to use AI and deploying AI in your business at some point in 2024, then this is something that makes sense to get your house in order with. And certainly with the recommendations that Microsoft has in how you prep your tenant for Copilot for Microsoft 365, this is one of the things that you should be looking at. So it may not be the spring yet, but I think what I'm suggesting is that you at least think about what your spring cleaning is going to look like as we step into 2024.
Right. Yeah. At least a plan. So, but now I get the permissions thing, but what's an example of like having too much, like you got unnecessary data? Like what are we talking about here? Like, go clean out the archives of your email because you got too much, back email or something? Or what are we talking about? Like stuff that's 7 years old, documents?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's it. I think there's a tendency to not want to press delete on stuff,
yes.
even if that data is not of any use anymore. Data can almost feel like a comfort blanket, and there's no there's no downside to that from a technical point of view. Storage is really really cheap. So if you want to hold on to all of your digital data, then there's no technical reason that you can't do that. But in terms of your processes, there's a huge downside to that. If you hire someone new and they're just searching through your system for your price catalog to send to a client, and they find the one from 2006 instead of the one from 2023, that could be a problem. Are they going to notice that before they email it out to someone? Does it have your old branding on it? Are you holding on to people's personal information in a way that isn't compliant with your privacy policy? Have you told them that after a certain amount of time you're going to be deleting their information and you haven't done that? Now, in the US, depending on where you're at, there might be different regulations that do apply to that. But certainly, if you're somewhere like Europe, there are 100% going to be regulations that apply to that, and you need to get your house in order in terms of that. But for every business, it's good practice to be on top of these things. So I think there's lots of reasons to be working this out, and there's lots of reasons just to declutter so that the stuff that you've got is what you need.
Yeah, that's me, man. I like to declutter all the time. I don't like keeping a whole bunch of extra stuff. Right now, being a content creator, I put a lot of videos into my stream, Microsoft Stream. I got a lot of videos in there, a lot of outtakes, all that other stuff. I don't plan to go and necessarily delete them, but I probably will archive them or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't need all those videos just sitting there every time I log in. And the same for like some people. So I'm doing like some one-on-one trainings now. And as we do the trainings, I record it and I keep it in my stream and I provide it to them. Now I'm like, well, after 6 months, you should be good. Download the video, take it for yourself. You don't need to keep it in my environment for so long. So, things to think about. And I'm with you. All right, let's talk about work that didn't work in 2023. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways and initiatives that people took this year that didn't necessarily work out. They at the beginning of the year, maybe halfway through the year, they're like, yes, this is it. One of the examples you gave was posting to Teams instead of writing emails. This is extremely interesting to me. I'm wondering your take on this. So what you got?
So, I think a lot of the time we see that there are really good and important initiatives that client companies that we work with may start, and some of them may get traction and work, and some of them just don't. And it's not because they're bad ideas or they're bad processes that people have put into place, but sometimes things just don't work out because of the way that they've been communicated or the way people have been trained on them or whatever the case may be. And I think the start of the year, to me, is a really good time to kind of look back and reflect on that and ask the question of, well, where were we trying to get to with X? Where did we actually get to, and what work do we need to put into it going forward? And the one with Teams is kind of close to my heart because I see that a lot, that people will get excited about transitioning processes over to Teams, transitioning their communication to Teams. And you'll get subsets of people within an organization that are very excited about about using it. But sometimes that adoption kind of fails a little bit, and you'll walk into an organization where clearly work has gone into setting up teams and getting it working, but you still see a lot of communication that is going back to email, and it's difficult for people to find what they're referring to. And it's not because any one person has done anything wrong or anyone is trying to stop this from working. It's just that adoption has kind of stalled a little bit. And adoption is one of those things, I talk about this a lot of, it's an ongoing process, in my opinion. You know, adoption should be something that we're doing every day, every week. It should be something, you know, if you have a standing team meeting, it should be something that you bring up as a part of your standing agenda around the tools that you're using, any tips that you've got for your technology to make processes easier. That's kind of the way that adoption works well. So take a look at what you've done. Think about, you know, what were the good ideas where I tried to make things easier over the last year, and what didn't quite work, and how can we rethink that and re-engage people so they start to work as we move into this new year.
You see, now I think about this like, are you doing good planning? Because I'm not saying you should have some like 100% success rate, but you should probably put in place, this is if you see a lot of things not working out, maybe put in place some type of preliminary actions that you take before you implement. So then you see, you know what your business needs. So you say to yourself, what will this cost? What will this gain? When we weigh it against the things that we are already doing, how many personnel will we need to make this happen? Do we have to hire externally? What the end result, will this really boost us to what we're trying to do in the next 5 years because we have this big strategic plan? You know what I mean? Like all this other stuff, the things that you're doing and choosing to implement and make initiatives, do they fit into your strategic plan? Do you have a strategic plan? Stuff like that, I think, is what will drive how successful these things that you're doing are. You know what I mean? And so if you don't have that, definitely look into that. I've seen organizations do the strategic plan because it looks cool, and then they implement it, and the only people that care about it are the front office. The whole entire organization, they don't care. They just want to show up to their job and work. So if you want to see more success in these things that you're trying, get that strategic plan, get the whole team on board. You know, it's all about culture. Probably a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
You know what
no, I agree. I mean, one of the things that I often do as an initial engagement with a client is what I call a digital transformation audit. And the point of that is to take a holistic look at what's going on in the organization, what's working, what isn't working, specifically around where processes touch technology or where they don't, and work out what is possible here and what should be the roadmap that we're looking to. And I find that's a lot more a usefuler process than just stepping in and the brief being, hey, we need a new finance system. Hey, we need a new CRM system, because there's usually more to it than that.
Absolutely.
And you talked about culture. It is very much a culture thing. Like, you know, digital transformation, trying to make these things work. It's mostly about people. A little bit of it is technology, but it's
Agreed.
mostly about people. And you know, people will have good intentions. Usually there's a few people who are maybe excited about making technology work better in the business. But as you say, there's all those other people that are just coming to work to do their job, you know, and unless you make it really exciting for them, you can really show them what the benefit is going to be, what the end result is going to be, then they're not going to engage with it. And it's not because they're bad people. It's not because they're not interested in making the company better. It's because they know what they know. And you're not making it real to them to take time to know something different. So you're entirely right, Thurman. This is about planning. It's about planning that engagement. It's about creating champions. It's be able to follow best practices and show people best practices, and slowly you can run this stuff out. But you know, take some time, take a breath. Don't try 20 new initiatives.
Right.
Try to get those 5 initiatives that you started last year that aren't quite working to work. because people can get tired of just change after change after change. Sometimes you just have to spend the time to bed stuff in, work out why it didn't work, go back to the drawing board and make it work. And that can be a lot more powerful within an organization.
Totally with you. Totally with you. Now, I guess along the line of culture, let's talk about policy reminders, right? So another thing that you could do in FY24 to prepare to be more productive is policy reminders or process reminders. Now, an example you gave is like only using company software or hardware. Now, this is a good one because there's all types of things you can remind people of, but we know how it is. You get into the groove of doing a thing, you think you're doing it right. Little did you know there's actually a correct way to do this. You were just trained incorrectly to do it. But talk to me about policy reminders and process reminders.
Yeah, I think this is a really important one. In my experience, there are like three ways that things get done within an organization. There's the way that the people who are in charge think it gets done. There's the way that it's like the process is designed to work. And then there's the way that people actually do it.
Right.
And very rarely do you find that those things entirely align with one another.
Yep.
But often there is a good reason why a process is designed in a certain way and should be done in that certain way rather than being shortcutted. It could be to do with compliance. It could be to do with it creates friction for other departments or other places within the organization if it doesn't get done that way. So coming back to, well, what do our processes look like and what are our standards around this type of work, and just reminding people of it can be really important. And that doesn't need to be take everyone out for 5 days of training or get very aggressive around dealing with the fact that people might not be doing it quite as you want it to be done. But the start of the year can be a good time to create a cadence of reminding people of these things, whether it's to do with, we send out a weekly email that's got some updates, or we get someone in each team meeting each week through the year. A different person will present an aspect of a process that they're responsible for and why it's important to them and the organization that it gets done in that way, what the impact can be if it doesn't get done that way. And these can help to eliminate friction points and eliminate gaps. And often it's those friction points and gaps that end up costing us the most time and money and frustration in businesses.
Right. Yes. And I am of the thought process where I don't even want to wait till the year end. You know what I mean? I think you should be doing this at least quarterly. You know what I'm saying? And I'm to your point about having somebody come in. Let's have a meeting. Somebody comes in where they're responsible for a certain part of that process, and they talk about it. You know what I'm saying? They say, "Hey, so we get these referrals in on Tuesday, and normally I run it through this wicket, and then I have a meeting with finance to make sure that we got the budget to do it. And in that finance meeting, we do this, this, and this. Just that alone." With the new folks in the company or people who've been there for a while, they hear this person talking, they go, "What? I didn't even know that." You know what I mean? I didn't even know I could do that. So that type of stuff year round, let's say quarterly, great. And as far as like the email updates and stuff like that, 1000%. You send out a, "Hey, did you know?" You know what I mean? Like, did you know we even have a policy library and that you can see when the policy was updated, right at the bottom of the policy? Or did you know that any policies that go out that involve X, Y, and Z must be signed by leadership? Like, are you aware of this? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And even when one of my favorite things to do is a process is super long, right? If you can pluck out that one little piece and just talk about that, you can lend again some more insight into how that works. But it's a simple email. It's a simple publish an email, maybe record a quick video of you. If you're in leadership, send out that email, whatever. Like, I love this year-long, constant educating, thing. I'm all into that. So definitely the process reminders and the policy reminders, they will make you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you want your weakest link to know what everybody else knows in their department or in their wheelhouse to be as strong as the team, to make the team stronger. So I'm all about that. I love that stuff. All right, lastly, let's talk about these projects that we needed to dust off, right? So earlier we were talking about stuff that you tried that didn't work out, right? What about the stuff that you didn't try, that you know you had it in the back burner, and maybe this is something that you want to give a shot? What about that?
Yeah, I think again, just with this theme of, we're at the start of the year, it's a really good time to kind of look back as to what are those things that are on your list that you were never able to get to for whatever reason,
Right.
and think about how do I get this moving this year. I think a lot of people in the last year were thinking about all this stuff that was coming up with AI. I had a lot of questions, a lot of conversations with people about, well, what does this mean for me? But there were certainly a lot more questions and conversations I had than businesses that I was seeing effectively moving forward with it. So perhaps 2024 is the year for you to be able to move forward with that or to find out more about it. Perhaps now is a good time to be reaching out to your IT team or to your MSP or to a consultant that you're aware of in whatever arena it is, and to start talking about, well, by the end of the year, I'd like to get X rolling within the business. What does that look like? What would the roadmap be so that by the time we sit here this time next year, we'll be in a different position with this process or this product or this piece of the business?
Right. And then also, if you think about the projects that uh, probably were getting started, but something out of your control stopped it.
Mm.
Maybe, unfortunately, there was something going on with your family or the project lead's family. Maybe, some people are having babies or whatever.
Mm.
Like, listen, I on share or on LinkedIn, I am constantly talking about SharePoint, right? And one of my favorite things about SharePoint is sites. Like, I think everybody needs a site. If you're
Mm.
running a
Mm.
project, you should have a site. Why? Because everything is centrally located there. So if you know, are having a situation where you have to leave, and maybe the project has to shut down because you are a very important piece of this puzzle. So the project gets shut down. You are dealing with family in, like, I don't know, April. And by the time October rolls around, November, they're like, all right, listen, for FY24, we got to bring that project back up. You don't have to go searching through email and, share drives and where you put this thing on SharePoint and all this other stuff. Go back to the site that
Mm.
you would have
Mm.
created at the beginning. Now, I say all that not to cheap plug, but I will plug. You know what I'm saying? If you come deal with me, then I'm going to teach you how to do that. As a matter of fact, I have a shop. I do a workshop every month. I actually do two now. I do two workshops every month. On the 13th, I'm showing you how to create a site. Because again, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So I want everybody in your organization, just like how they know they have access to PowerPoint and Excel and all that, you have access to SharePoint. You can create a site. Create the site, make sure everything is located there so that no matter what happens, we
Mm.
know
Mm.
where to go for whatever it is that we need. That's your first step, is creating that site. So come to the workshop. It's January 13th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you come there. And
And
Nick, what
we'll
about
stick
you?
a link down below, won't we? So let me ask you. Let me
Yes.
ask you a question, Thurman.
Sure.
Just a quick question on that. What do you think of joining together the idea of having the site along with one of the tools that we have in Microsoft 365 is expiration policies on groups, and these kind of reminders of, well, no one's touched this in 30 days, no one's touched this in 90 days. Do you want to delete it? Is that something that can be helpful to keep rubber hitting the road on some of these things through the year, to be like, well, no one's touched this, no one's worked on this, we need to get back to it.
Yes. 1000%. I don't think it's a straight up, like, it's cut and dry, but you definitely need the reminder.
Mm.
Because again, I'm all about technology. And I know you are too, Nick, but we consider people. So the people part of this is just, hey, you need the nudge. What you do after the nudge is on you. This is the people part. You know what I'm saying? Can the technology remind you? Can the technology put something in place and, craft up a nice email and whatever and, let you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Most technology can. But after you get that notification, what are you going to do? What's the next step? Do we engage with the person who, created the site or the team or whatever? Do we run this through the process and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this project sucks and we don't need to do it anymore. Like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So Yes, 1000%. My answer is yes. You will. You definitely want to do that, and the technology can do that.
Yeah,
Microsoft
no,
365.
I agree. I think that's a good tool in there. So, in terms of on the theme of things that we could do at the start of the year to make sure we're on a solid footing, look out on Thursday for my next video that will be coming out on YouTube, where I'm going to suggest some questions. If you're a small business owner, you can ask to your managed service provider to make sure that that relationship is working well, because I think that's a really important one to be thinking about. Do you have all your bases covered when it comes to your technology? And so I'm going to be suggesting some questions you can ask them in a conversation to make sure that all of your bases are covered.
I love that. Good deal. And you said it's coming out on Thursday, right?
On
Okay.
Thursday, yeah. So long as I get that done. But yeah, usually I'm fairly consistent with Mondays and Thursdays and video days.
No comment on my side. Listen, before we leave though, do you have anything else that you want to let anybody know about?
So if you're wanting to do if you want to do a digital transformation project in 2024, then that digital transformation audit and assessment can be a really good starting point. So I would take a look at my website and just look at the options there. There'll be a link down below. You can hire me hour by hour as a virtual coach for this type of thing, or for an ongoing project if that's what you want. There's lots of flexible options there. So go take a look at that. And I did actually just put out a video a couple of weeks ago on this topic to talk about how you would manage a digital transformation project and what that would look like within your business. So a fair bit of content has come out from me recently to kind of help you through this process. But if you want to talk to me specifically about it for your particular project, then feel free to reach out to see what that would look like.
Good deal. Good deal. And me, I am on LinkedIn every single day. I will, if you DM me, I'm going to get back to you within 24 hours because I'm there every day. And again, come to that workshop. You need a site for your project or your business or whatever. The link is going to be in the description. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care, everyone.